He laughed. Not nervously. Not awkwardly. He laughed like someone holding a loaded gun in his pocket. If you mess up, he said, eyes glittering with cruelty, I already have a backup fiancé. The room froze, and I smiled soft, calm, terrifyingly quiet. I know, I replied. That smile confused him. It should have warned him. My name was Nyla Carter. But in that moment, I wasn't a woman. I was furniture, something replaceable. Something temporary. His friends laughed with him. His mother didn't stop him. His phone buzzed, her name lighting up the screen like a threat he wanted me to see. I stood there in my engagement dress, fingers trembling, heart cracking in slow motion. Inside me, something didn't break, it went cold. He leaned close, whispering so only I could hear, "Don't get too comfortable. You're optional." Optional, I nodded. Because weak girls cry, and I was done being weak. That night I didn't scream, I didn't throw things, I didn't beg. I lay beside him, staring at the ceiling, replaying every humiliation like a lesson I would master. Backup fiancé. I memorized the words. I memorized his tone. I memorized the way power looked on his face, so I could rip it off him later. Weeks passed. I became quieter, kinder, smaller. He loved that. Men like him always do. He corrected me in public, joked about replacing me, compared me to women who weren't so sensitive. And every time, I smiled. Inside, I was building something sharp. I started paying attention, not to his words, but to his habits. The secret meetings. The offshore account he bragged about when drunk. The business partner who hated him quietly. I learned his weaknesses like a lover learns skin. He thought I was lucky to be chosen. He didn't know I was studying him like prey. One night at a dinner party, he raised his glass. To Nyla, he said loudly, my current fiancée. Lauder cameras, humiliation wrapped in silk. I lifted my glass too. Met his eyes. He flinched just for a second. Good. Behind his back I made calls. I reconnected with people he'd crushed. I offered help, resources. Silence for now. I didn't move fast, revenge that rushes fails. I waited, I planned, I sharpened patience into a weapon. Then I met up. Beautiful, confident, and completely unaware she was just a spare part in his ego machine. She looked at me with pity. I looked at her with understanding. We would talk soon. The night before our engagement announcement, he held my chin hard. Don't embarrass me tomorrow, he warned. You know I have options. I kissed his hand. I know, I said again. And this time, my smile reached my eyes. Because everything was in place. The documents, the witnesses, the timing. He thought tomorrow would crown him. He had no idea it would end him. And as I lay awake in the dark, listening to him sleep peacefully beside me, I whispered the truth he never heard coming. You should have never needed a backup. The next morning arrived dressed like a celebration. Sunlight, champagne, tailored suits. Everything polished enough to hide rot. He stood in front of the mirror adjusting his cufflinks, already rehearsing the applause. I watched him from the doorway, silent, invisible, exactly how he liked me. Smile today, he said without looking at me. People need to believe you're happy. I stepped forward and fixed his tie with steady hands. I am, I said. That was the first time he hesitated. The venue was packed. Investors, family, media. Power loves witnesses. He held my hand tightly, like ownership. On stage, he spoke about loyalty, trust, legacy, words he'd never respected. Then he nodded to me, my turn. The microphone felt warm. Familiar. I took a breath. I used to believe love meant endurance. I began. He smiled. This was the obedient fiancé he expected. But then I learned something valuable. I continued, eyes locked on his. When someone keeps a backup, it's because they're afraid the original might wake up. A ripple moved through the crowd. His smile twitched. I raised my phone. One document, I said calmly, then another, then another. Screens behind us lit up, contracts, transfers, recordings, his offshore account, his illegal acquisitions, his threats, his voice unmistakable. Gasps, phone's recording now, for real. He grabbed my wrist. You're bluffing, he hissed. I leaned in, voice sweet. You taught me never to be optional. Security moved. Investors stepped back. His business partner, the quiet one, walked onto the stage and stood beside me. It's all verified, he said. I'm out. And so is the money. The color drained from him like someone pulled a plug. She stood up then. The backup. Her eyes weren't on him anymore, they were on me. I nodded once. She understood everything. She walked out without a word. He tried to laugh. That same laugh, but it cracked halfway through. You think this ends me, he said, shaking. I'll replace everything? Everyone. I took the mic one last time. No, I said softly. You'll watch. Police lights washed the windows blue and red. Handcuffs clicked like punctuation. As they pulled him away, he looked back at me, finally seeing me. And for the first time he was afraid. I didn't cry, I didn't wave. I just stood there, calm as ever. Because this wasn't the end. This was only the moment he realized. The backup was never the problem. The headlines exploded before the sun even set. His name, once untouchable, was dragged across screens like a public execution. Fortune. Financial abuse. Every secret I'd collected now screamed his truth to the world. I watched it all from the balcony of the hotel suite he had booked for us. The champagne was still chilled. I poured a glass and let it fizz untouched. Power tastes better when you don't rush it. He was released on bail 3 days later, thinner, louder. Desperate. He showed up at my door like a man who had lost his reflection. You ruined me, he said, voice cracking. You were nothing without me. I didn't invite him in, didn't raise my voice. I warned you? When you laughed. He stepped closer, eyes wild. I loved you? I smiled, not cruelly. Truthfully, no, I said. You used me to feel large. The words landed harder than any slap. Behind me, the apartment lights glowed. My apartment now, the lease, the accounts, the silence. Everything he'd signed without reading. He reached for my hand. I stepped back. You always wanted a backup, I told him, so I became my own. The door closed softly between us, final, irreversible. Weeks passed, his empire collapsed like wet paper. Investors vanished, friends disowned him. The laugh that once controlled rooms now echoed only in empty ones. And me. I didn't celebrate, I rebuilt. I took the seat he never imagined me worthy of. Signed deals, gave interviews. Smiled when they asked how I survived. I listened, I said, that's all. One evening, as rain painted the city in silver, I received a message from an unknown number. I see now. You were never weak. I deleted it without replying. Because strength doesn't need acknowledgement. And silence is the loudest ending. But not yet. The final reckoning was still waiting. The trial date was set for autumn, when the city smells like rain and regret. He tried to delay it. He tried to buy time. Time refused him. I sat in the courtroom on the first day, dressed in black, not mourning, not revenge, control. He didn't recognize me at first. Not really. He searched for the girl who flinched, the woman who stayed quiet. She wasn't there. Our eyes met. His didn't hold power anymore, they begged. They played the recordings. His voice filled the room, arrogant, careless, cruel. If she messes up, I'll replace her. Lauder. Applause. The judge didn't smile. His lawyer kept glancing at me like I was a ghost that refused to vanish. I didn't react. Revenge doesn't need expressions. It needs patience. Outside the courtroom, cameras waited like vultures. Do you feel guilty? Someone shouted. Do you still love him? Another asked. I stopped. Turned. I loved who I thought he was. I said calmly. And then I learned who he really was. That clip went viral within hours. At night alone. I finally let myself remember everything. The way I used to rehearse sentences, before speaking so he wouldn't mock me. The way I apologized for his anger. The way silence became my safest language. I didn't hate that girl. I honored her. She survived long enough for me to finish the job. Halfway through the trial, something unexpected happened. His mother requested to see me. We met in the quiet cafe near the courthouse. She looked older than her years, smaller. He was never satisfied, she said suddenly, staring into her cup. No woman ever stayed enough. I didn't correct her. Some realizations must arrive late to hurt properly. I'm not here for forgiveness, she continued. I just wanted you to know you were right to leave. I stood. I didn't leave. I said gently. I outgrew him. The verdict came on a Thursday, guilty, across every charge that mattered. He collapsed into his chair, like a man whose bones finally remembered gravity. I didn't watch them take him away. I already knew how it would look. Outside, the city kept moving. It always does. Success followed quietly, not flashy, not loud, real. I invested in companies run by women he once mocked. I hired people he'd discarded. I built something that didn't need fear to function. They called me cold. They called me calculating. I let them. One night, months later, I attended a charity gala, soft music, crystal glasses, polite lies. A familiar laugh drifted across the room. Not his. The backup fiancée stood near the bar, elegant, composed, free. She saw me, approached. "I owe you," she said quietly. "You saved me from a future I didn't see." I shook my head. "No," I replied. "I just held up a mirror." She smiled. "So did I," she said, lifting her glass, to never being optional again. We clinked glasses. The sound was sharp, satisfying. Later that night, alone again, I stood by the window. The city lights looked like constellations, every one a story that survived collapse. I thought about him, not with anger, with distance. He had believed power meant control. He never understood the danger of underestimating silence. I turned off the light and let the dark settle comfortably around me. Because some people lose everything in one moment, and some moments take years to earn. And I had earned every second of this. The letter arrived without a return address, slipped under my office door like a confession too ashamed to knock. The paper was cheap. The handwriting unfamiliar at first glance, then painfully obvious. He was writing from inside. I didn't open it immediately. Some things lose their power when you don't rush them. Outside my window, the city breathed, alive, indifferent, unstoppable. The same city he once believed bent to his will. I remembered the way he used to stand at the glass, pointing down at the streets like they were chess pieces. Mine, his silence had said. I opened the letter. He didn't apologize. Men like him rarely do. Instead, he explained. Explained how betrayal broke him. Explained how loneliness tasted like punishment. Explained how prison stripped him of the ladder that once protected him. At the end, one line was underlined so hard the paper tore. "You didn't just ruin me. You replaced me." I folded the letter once. Twice, then fed it into the shredder. The day he was sentenced for good, there was no media frenzy. No spectacle. The world had already moved on to fresher monsters. I watched the livestream alone, volume muted, his mouth opening and closing like a man arguing with gravity itself. When the gavel fell, something inside me finally exhaled. Not relief, release. Years earlier, he had said I was optional. Now he was erased by systems he never bothered to understand. Power doesn't scream, it documents. I built quietly after that. Not empires, ecosystems. Places where cruelty couldn't hide behind charm. Where contracts were clear and silence was respected. My name became synonymous with something rare: trust. People asked how I stayed so calm through everything. I never told them the truth. That calm was earned in nights spent swallowing tears, so no one could weaponize them. In days where humiliation taught me observation. In moments where staying silent was the only way to survive long enough to win. One evening, long after the trial had faded into trivia, I was invited to speak at a closed-door summit. No cameras, no applause. Just people who actually listened. At the end, someone asked, "If you could go back, would you leave earlier?" I thought of the girl in the engagement dress, the laugh, the words. "Backup fiancé." "No," I said. "Because if I'd left earlier, I would have survived, and I didn't want survival." I paused. I wanted transformation. That night, I stood alone again. This time on a rooftop I owned outright. Wind tangled my hair. The city below looked small, manageable, honest. My phone buzzed, a notification. He had been transferred to another facility. Further away. Forgotten faster. I deleted the alert. Closure isn't a moment. It's a decision. I poured a drink, not to celebrate. Not to mourn, just to mark the silence. I raised the glass to the skyline, to the version of me who learned too late but finished strong. Somewhere. A man who once laughed at my replaceability stared at concrete walls, realizing too slowly that backups don't save you when the original stops playing the role. I had never needed revenge loud enough to echo. I became the absence he could never replace. And in that quiet, irreversible truth, I finally ended him. END.